From sweet, naive vault dweller who couldn't hurt a fly to shooting ferals in the legs and heading into Caesar's Legion territory, here's Lucy MacLean's entire story in the Fallout series explained. So Lucy MacLean starts out as probably the most sheltered person you could possibly imagine. She's living in Vault 33 somewhere under what used to be Los Angeles. And honestly, her life is just about as perfect as it gets in a post-apocalyptic world. She's teaching American history with a focus on ethics, doing gymnastics, fencing, riflery, all while spending tons of quality time with her dad Hank, who's the overseer. She's got her cousin Chet, who she's done 10 years of cousin stuff with, which the show keeps deliberately vague about. But yeah, it's exactly what you think it is. And apparently that's totally fine in the vault, as long as they don't get married. Her best friend is Steph Harper, who actually came from Vault 31. But here's the thing about Lucy's childhood that she doesn't even remember properly. She was actually born back in the 2270s to Hank and her mom, Rose. And Rose at some point figured out that the surface world wasn't nearly as dangerous as everyone said it was. So Rose basically said, screw this, and took Lucy and her brother Norman to live in a place called Shady Sands. Lucy and Norm were too young to really remember this, but Lucy has this vague memory of playing in a field under the sun with her mom, feeling its warmth. Later on, she convinces herself that this was just her playing in the Vault 33 farm under an artificial heat lamp, because that's easier to believe than the truth. The real story is way darker though. Hank eventually tracked down Rose on the surface, and she straight up refused to come back with him. So Hank took the kids back to Vault 33 by force. And then in 2283, he literally dropped a nuke on Shady Sands. Like completely annihilated it. And then he told Lucy that her mom died from a vault famine in 2277, which was a complete lie. Lucy's whole worldview is built on lies basically, but she has no idea yet. The show really kicks off when Lucy applies to get married through the Vault's arranged marriage system. She gets matched with this guy Monty, who's supposedly from Vault 32, and after they consummate the marriage, Lucy hears screaming outside her room. She scans Monty with her Pip-Boy and realizes he's irradiated, meaning he's not actually from a vault at all, but a raider from the surface. He attacks her, and she ends up stabbing him in the neck to survive. She heals herself with a stim pack and grabs a tranquilizer gun, because there's a full-on raider attack happening in the vault. During all this chaos in the atrium, she hides Norm in a floor storage space and watches her father literally drown Monty to death in the apple-bobbing tub, which is pretty brutal. Then, Lee Moldaver, who's been posing as the overseer of Vault 32, kidnaps Hank and takes him to the surface. Lucy being Lucy, she immediately proposes organizing a search party to rescue her dad. The Vault Council is not having it though, because they don't want to give up their newfound authority, and they definitely don't want to open the vault door. So Lucy just decides to go rogue. She gets Norm to be her lookout, and Chet helps her unlock the elevator and unseal the exterior door. Chet tries to come with her because he's worried about her safety, but she tranquilizes him, which is honestly pretty cold. She hugs Norm goodbye and just walks out into the wasteland while Reg and Davy are shouting at her to stop. Her first night out in the wasteland, Lucy meets this guy, Siggy Wilzig, who's an Enclave defector, carrying some kind of valuable artifact for cold fusion technology that he's trying to get to Moldaver. He basically tells her she's in way over her head and should go home, then disappears into the night. The next day, she makes it to the settlement called Philly, where this storekeeper, Ma June, just laughs at her because vault dwellers are seen as completely naive and sheltered. While she's there, she runs into Wilzig again, and then they both get confronted by the Ghoul, who's tracking Wilzig for a bounty. All hell breaks loose with the Ghoul shooting Wiltzig's foot off and killing several people. Lucy tries to de-escalate peacefully, which obviously doesn't work, and she shoots the Ghoul with a tranquilizer dart that does absolutely nothing. Then, Maximus shows up in power armor and tackles Lucy out of the way, while keeping the Ghoul at bay. After that whole mess, Ma June reveals she's actually Moldaver's client. Lucy tries to get Wiltzig across the wasteland, but he's dying from his leg injury, and takes a cyanide pill. Before he dies, he asks Lucy to cut off his head so she can still deliver it to Moldaver, and she does it with a chainsaw, which is probably the most metal thing she's done up to this point. So Lucy's traveling with this severed head when she stops at flooded Hollywood Boulevard. She feeds a fawn, and then a gulper just devours it right in front of her, and then comes after her. She manages to escape using her tranq gun, but the gulper swallows the head and swims away. Before she can go after it, the Ghoul catches up to her because he's been using Wiltzig's dog CX-404 to track the scent. He ties Lucy to this waterside pulley and keeps dunking her in the water as bait to lure out the gulper. When the gulper attacks, Lucy accidentally destroys the Ghoul's vials during the chaos, and he is not happy about it. He takes her prisoner and drags her away because now he needs new vials, and they'll have to come back for the head before the gulper digests it. On their journey together, things get even more brutal. They run into the Ghoul's friend Roger, who's another Ghoul that's about to turn feral, and the Ghoul shoots him dead after getting him to reminisce about better times. Lucy gets on his case about being cruel, and when she reveals her last name is MacLean, the Ghoul realizes she's the daughter of his wife's pre-war assistant. He forces Lucy to carve up Roger's body for meat, which is absolutely traumatic for her. Later, she drinks irradiated water out of desperation, and when the Ghoul is having a coughing fit, she tries to run, but doesn't get very far. She bites off his right index finger, and he cuts off hers to make it even, which is just savage. The Ghoul drags her to the Super Duper Mart, where he trades her to this Mr. Handy named Snip Snip for 2 months worth of vials. Snip Snip is super polite and reattaches a decaying finger to replace Lucy's missing one. She thinks she's being sold into sex slavery, but nope. Snip Snip wants to harvest her organs. He tranquilizes her and straps her to a gurney. When she wakes up, she manages to escape and uses a defibrillator to shock Snip Snip, then threatens the owners Huey and Squirrel with him. They don't care about Snip Snip at all, but they agree to free the captive ghouls when she threatens them with poisonous cleanser. Problem is, most of the ghouls are feral, and they immediately attack everyone. Lucy hides while the ferals kill Huey and Squirrel, and then she has to kill the last remaining ghoul named Martha with a 10mm pistol. Despite everything the Ghoul put her through, Lucy finds him outside needing his vials desperately. She decides she's not going to let him turn feral and gives him the vials before walking away. This is a turning point for Lucy, where she's learning that survival in the wasteland requires making tough choices, but she can still hold on to her humanity. Lucy then finds Maximus again, who's been locked in his own armor by his squire Thaddeus. She helps free him while dealing with radiation sickness, and he treats her with Radaway. They team up to track down Thaddeus and get the head back. While they're traveling, Lucy asks Maximus what happened since the vaults went underground. They encounter 2 cannibals named Jovan and Rink who try to kill them, and Maximus shoots them both, though he gets shot in the process. They eventually reach the ruins of Shady Sands, and Maximus reveals that was his home before the Brotherhood took him in. Lucy is absolutely shocked to learn that civilization returned to the surface without the Vault Dwellers, which completely contradicts everything she was told about Vault 33's purpose, to rebuild civilization. Lucy discovers Maximus's wound is serious and takes him looking for medical supplies. They end up falling through a trap door into Vault 4. They meet the Overseer Benjamin, and learn the vault is open to Shady Sands refugees. Lucy becomes horrified when she discovers they worship the Flame Mother, who turns out to be Lee Moldaver. She sneaks down to level 12 and discovers evidence of genetic experimentation, gets caught, and thinks she's about to be executed. Turns out, they're just expelling her with supplies. Maximus, who had been enjoying life in the vault, steals their fusion core to power his armor and rescues Lucy, only to find out they were already letting her go. Lucy convinces him to leave the fusion core with them, and they leave together. She invites Maximus to live with her in Vault 33 after she rescues her dad, and he reveals his real name isn't Titus, but Maximus, and that he let Knight Titus die and took his armor. They finally catch up to Thaddeus, who's called for Brotherhood reinforcements. Thaddeus triggers a booby trap that puts a hole in his neck, but he heals instantly, making them think he's turning into a ghoul. Maximus offers to go back to the Brotherhood with a fake head if Thaddeus gives them the real one. Lucy and Maximus share a kiss before going separate ways, with Lucy heading to Griffith Observatory, where Moldaver is. When Lucy arrives at the observatory, she finds Moldaver waiting with a restrained feral ghoul and her father in a cage. She hands over the head, and Moldaver agrees to release Hank, but first reveals the truth about everything. Moldaver explains that Hank was a Vault-Tec executive who was cryogenically frozen for 2 centuries. That Lucy's mom, Rose, discovered this and escaped with Lucy and Norm to Shady Sands. When Hank found out, he destroyed Shady Sands, killing thousands of people, and took his kids back. The head contains cold fusion technology from Moldaver's research that needs an access code only Hank knows. The absolute worst part is that the feral ghoul sitting at the table is Lucy's mom, Rose, who was turned into a ghoul from the radiation of Hank's bomb. Lucy forces Hank to give Moldaver the code. When the Brotherhood attacks, Maximus finds Lucy and frees Hank. Lucy tells Maximus what her father did, and in a rage, Maximus tries to attack him, but Hank knocks him out. Lucy picks up a gun and aims it at her father, completely heartbroken and furious, but she can't pull the trigger. The ghoul shows up and shoots Hank, grazing his cheek, demanding to know where his wife and daughter are. Hank just flies off instead of answering. The ghoul invites Lucy to join him in tracking down Hank, warning that if she stays with Maximus, the Brotherhood will kill her. Lucy makes the heartbreaking decision to shoot her mother to end her suffering, then follows the ghoul. She tells an unconscious Maximus she'll find him again. In Season 2, Lucy and the ghoul have been traveling together for a while now. They make a deal with the Great Khans to turn over the ghoul for a bounty, with the plan being that Lucy would shoot the rope while he's being hanged from her sniper position in the Dinky the T-Rex statue. But Lucy being Lucy tries to negotiate with the Khan leader Nick the Prick to just let the ghoul go peacefully. Nick's not falling for it and orders his men to kill her. Lucy shoots the ghoul's noose, freeing him, and she shoots a few Khans in non-lethal spots, while the ghoul takes out the rest with lethal force. They bicker afterwards about her reluctance to kill people, ruining their plan to rob the Khans. They eventually reach a hill overlooking New Vegas, and Lucy comments that it looks virtually unchanged from pre-war days. The ghoul reveals that's because the city's air defenses shot down most of the missiles. Lucy assumes the ghoul's family went to Vegas because it's safe, but he says nowhere around Robert House is safe. In flashbacks, we see Cooper, who is the ghoul before he became a ghoul, discovering Vault-Tec's plans to start nuclear war, and his wife Barb's involvement. He tries to get his daughter Janie out of LA, but they get caught in what they think is the real nuclear attack. Back in the present, Lucy and the ghoul find footprints from someone in power armor, leading to an abandoned drive-in theater where they discover the entrance to Vault 24. Inside, they find skeletal remains and evidence that Vault 24 was experimenting with brainwashing American citizens into communist sleeper agents using black box chips. Hank had already extracted the data and left a box of sugar bombs as a message to Lucy, calling her Sugar Bomb. Using a man he fitted with a black box chip as a living loudspeaker, Hank tells Lucy to go back to Vault 33, then kills the man by overloading the chip and making his head explode. This enrages Lucy, and she decides she's done listening to her father and is determined to stop him. They continue traveling and come across a wounded woman at Affordable Al's discount hospital. Against the Ghoul's advice, Lucy uses her last stim pack on the woman. When baby rad scorpions attack, a big mature one bursts in and stings both the woman and the Ghoul. Lucy uses the stim pack on the woman instead of the Ghoul because she knows he'll regenerate, and also because she thinks he deserves it for being cruel. She takes the woman and leaves, promising to come back for him, just to prove him wrong about being kind to others. Lucy and the wounded woman are walking when they encounter men in Roman armor on the cliffs. The woman disappears, and Lucy realizes too late it was a trap. She gets captured by Caesar's legion, along with the woman who was actually a slave that escaped. Lucy is brought before the Lacerda Legate, who kills the escaped slave right in front of her. Then she meets Caesar himself and questions why they use German titles while emulating Romans, and mentions that prima noctis is a Middle Ages tradition. The legate takes her to show that there are actually two opposing legion camps, each led by someone calling themselves Caesar, fighting over who the real heir is to the founder. When Lucy genuinely offers to help negotiate peace, the legate sends her to be crucified instead. Meanwhile, the Ghoul, still recovering from the rad scorpion sting, digs the stinger out of his thigh while talking to Dogmeat about his deeper emotions. He eventually observes Lucy being crucified from a distance and realizes he needs help. He finds Victor, the Securitron, who's damaged and barely functional. Victor tells him the NCR has been absent for a while, and both they and the Legion are fighting over control of the Mojave. He mentions some NCR Rangers hiding in nearby hills. The Ghoul tracks down Captain Rodriguez and her tiny 3-person NCR team. They recognize him and say he and the NCR go way back. Rodriguez tries to get him to help fight the Legion, but he takes their inhaler vials and leaves, saying if the NCR's future died in the Mojave, it deserved to. But he does make a deal with Caesar's Legion to tell them where Rodriguez's team is hiding in exchange for freeing Lucy. He gets her down from the cross, and on their way out, he rigs dynamite in the camp to explode. The explosion starts a fight between the two Caesar factions, delaying their attack on the NCR. In the most recent episode, Lucy wakes up at the NCR Ranger camp after the Ghoul brought her there. She meets Rodriguez and Biff, who are from Shady Sands. Lucy is vague about why she's after her father, saying she'll bring him to justice. They give her weapons, and she leaves with the Ghoul. She starts acting erratic and speaking oddly, and the Ghoul realizes she's addicted to Buffout after they used it to help her recover. She can either go cold turkey for 4 to 5 days, or just keep doing drugs, and she decides she can't wait and asks for more Buffout. They eventually make it to the New Vegas Strip, but find it deserted. Lucy, still high on Buffout, spots Ghoulified King's members at the gate, who are now feral. She starts talking to them before shooting one in the leg, then gleefully shoots the rest, while the Ghoul and Dogmeat watch. The Ghoul is pleased to see her being ruthless, but grimaces when she says, "They're just ghouls anyway." She kills the king and asks for cigarettes, but the Ghoul refuses. They walk down the deserted strip, with Lucy commenting there should be people around. The Ghoul tries to get her to go to Freeside instead, But Lucy loudly shouts for Hank. They start hearing roaring and realize there's a lot of radiation around. Lucy finds a large eggshell and is dismissive when the ghoul gets worried. Then, a death claw emerges from inside Gamora. So yeah, Lucy's gone from this sweet, optimistic vault teacher who believed in the best of everyone to someone who's shooting ferals without hesitation, addicted to chems, about to face down a death claw, and chasing her father who destroyed an entire city. She's learned the wasteland is brutal and unforgiving, that everything she was told growing up was lies, that her mother was turned into a ghoul by her father's bomb, and that sometimes survival means making hard choices. But through all of it, she's still trying to hold on to some piece of who she was, even if that's getting harder every day. Her journey is basically about losing her innocence and naivety while trying not to lose her humanity in the process. And honestly, it's pretty compelling watching her adapt to the nightmare that is the post-apocalyptic wasteland.